This podcast is brought to you by Flipper, a marketplace to buy and sell websites, stores, and digital real estate. Plot your own path. Become a boss by buying a small online business at Flipper. Simply visit flipper.com/techtalks for a free consultation and 50% off fees. That's FLIPPA, flipper.com/techtalks. If you do visit, let me know how you get on. But now, let's get the show started.
Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, as you all know, this ex-IT guy who sat in meetings for years listening with slight amusement as the IT guy talked about APIs and GUI interfaces, and other department members would just sit there in those meeting rooms thinking about what they were having for tea, watching an episode, or even thinking the words were just like watching an episode of CSI or any show that was full of meaningless techno babble like this.
I'll create a GUI interface using Visual Basic, see if I can track an IP address.
But I left that world behind, and that kind of inspired me to go on a mission to share tech stories in a language that everyone can understand and solve real-world problems and maybe have a few laughs along the way. So on this Daily Tech Podcast, I speak to a different leader every day from any part of the world. And today I'm going to turn my attention to Toronto in Canada, where I'm excited to get Keren Moynihan, co-founder and CEO of Boss Insights, onto the podcast. And Boss Insights started with a vision to empower lenders to measure businesses on their merit in addition to their credit. And in an era where tech giants have increased customer expectations, lenders and private capital providers are challenged to offer a complete and personalised solution. So Boss Insights data platform is giving lenders the clearest view of their business customers. And the platform then accelerates small business and commercial lending from months to minutes. And anything that removes pain like that has got to be a good thing. So I wanted to learn more about their mission to provide banks and credit unions with real-time understanding of their business client, enabling them to offer customer delights. And roads, where we're going, we don't need roads. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Toronto so we can speak with Keren all about the problems that they're solving with tech in a language that everyone can understand. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, hello, everybody. Very happy to be chatting with you. I am Keren Moynihan, and I'm a former commercial banker. And when I was working as a commercial banker, originally my dream job, because what I got to do is help businesses grow, and who doesn't love that? I was so frustrated because my day-to-day was very manual and very status quo. And sometimes when I talk about being a banker, it's really hard, especially in business, for people to think that all these people who are running companies, they are still just people with families and lives. What I saw on the front lines while I was trying to get loans approved back in 2010 was a lot of people brought to their knees with a process that declines more than it does approve. So that's a bit about my background. Where I'm at right now is I am the co-founder of Boss Insights. And what we do is we're digitizing the entire lending process, basically fixing what was broken when I was a banker and making it possible for lenders and borrowers to work in partnership, in collaboration. And we do it because businesses, they're the economic engine of the future. Now more than ever, it's important to give them the road to sustainability.
Excellent. And there's so many areas I'm excited to delve in with you a little bit on this subject today. But before we do that, I am conscious there's going to be a lot of people listening that are hearing about Boss Insights for the very first time. So for those people, can you tell me a little bit more about how you're empowering finances to actually empower and measure business vision?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, let's talk about what the world looks like today, okay? if you're a business, so you're still a person running a business, I'm running Boss Insights, I'm a person, right? You go to the bank and you say, could you loan me some money? And they don't look at you and your financials in isolation. They're looking at your collateral. When I say that we're empowering banks and credit unions to look at businesses on their merit, it's because we give them a tool, a scalable platform for them and for the businesses themselves to actually see, will this business succeed, and judge the business on their own merit. So how are things going right now with banks and credit unions and the businesses? I would say that they do a poor job of onboarding and retaining their business clients. If you look at their applications, they're tedious. I don't think any of us have to fill out another form in order to be happy. The approval rates, not high as we'd want them to be, around 28% in small and medium business. They're higher in commercial, but still there is a large number of businesses that do not get approved. And the service in general feels very transactional. There was a time where your banker came to your wedding. Now is not that time, right? Maybe because we're not actually having weddings at the moment. But the point is, it is financial services. And what we're doing is making it go back to where it came from. The thing is, there's so much information. And what we developed was a way to leverage it using the cloud-based tools that businesses use every day to bridge the gap between what businesses want from banks and what banks are able to provide. I can go much more into it if you like. I just didn't know.
Well, there is so much we could talk about this. And I think the most important thing here is you guys are using technology to solve a real problem. And in order for them to probably better understand the scale of the problems out there at the moment, maybe you could tell me a little bit more about the US CARES Act that led to $655 billion being approved through the SBA. And then, of course, the problems that quickly arose as a result. Is that something you can expand on?
First of all, we're doing this thing, and it's mid-2020, right?
Yeah.
U.S. CARES was approved in the early part of 2020 in March. Well, actually, in April 3rd. I want to correct myself there. April 3rd. COVID started at the beginning of the year. And digitization, the need for banks to really get on there and get that 2019 style tech at the time up and running, that was there before. Even before COVID, there was a $5 trillion need in the market. And when we say the word trillion, I don't think we can feel it. So I want to say it this way. On a daily basis, 8,000 businesses walk into banks and get declined for loans every day. Can you imagine? 8,000. Now, banks and credit unions are spending a fortune in terms of time and money in terms of to get their leads. But they let 8,000 businesses that are not qualifying for loans walk out the door. Why do they do that? There's no tech for it. In walks PPP and CARES with $659 billion. So let's go back in time to March. Yeah. This is when the US was isolating, the world isolated with very little notice, and everybody was talking about slowing the curve, which meant stopping the economy at that time. Now, there was a lot of Twitter memes that came out of the SBA's program, but I think that it is important to acknowledge that they put out this government legislation in 3 weeks. Normally that takes 2 to 3 years, and they put it out in 3 weeks. And then suddenly, over $300 billion hit the market. And chaos ensued. This could be a movie. And the SBA wrote out things, we're processing 14 years worth of loans in 14 days. And then I think the main part to remember is that the US market has 15,000 lenders lending in 15,000 different ways. And when PPP happened, they had a third of their market, over 5,000 lenders lending in one way. It was the financial flash mob that no one ever thought possible. So that's a little bit about PPP and CARES.
Flash mobs, do you remember those? Man.
I'm bringing it back. Can we do that?
I think we should. Note to self, bring flash mobs back. But from there, of course, predictably, borrowers struggled with the forgiveness calculation and lenders, banks and credit union challenges. So can you offer any insights on this and how the crisis led to banks, credit unions and fintechs collaborating in an unprecedented manner?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So again, let's first start with the challenges that made Twitter go crazy. And it wasn't because of an influencer. It was because there were memes of animals throwing computers against the wall. Why were they doing that? because there was a forgiveness calculation form that was 11 pages long that people said was like writing your taxes. And we can all write our own taxes, but I would argue that most of us don't. And the government in the United States has even made it possible for private companies to offer free versions of tax software. Free versions that might be challenging to find, but they are free because it's so challenging. Here we have a process, and it's called PPP loan, but it looks completely different from a normal loan. And here's why. A normal loan, you're a business, you have to show that after all your expenses, you have enough money to pay for that loan. That's what bankers are calculating right now to this day manually. And PPP is not looking at that. It's called the Paycheck Protection Program. What they're looking at is how many jobs are you keeping afloat? And we will give you some of this money as a grant if you do so, and the rest as a 1% loan. 1% is a very low interest rate. So here we have an entirely new practice and model, and the banks were completely ill-equipped to manage that forgiveness piece. And from the bank's point of view, they were just supposed to be a conduit from the government. So for the first time, you have a third of the financial institutions doing this PPP program in one way. You have no one understanding how to get through to the SBA because their systems keep collapsing. And you also have Fintechs who are bending over backwards to serve the market, and banks are listening. We wrote a piece called Not Social Distancing, but Social Collaboration. And normally when you're a fintech, you're selling to a bank, it takes 6 months to 2 years. We were able to secure some relationships with banks in under 2 weeks.
Wow.
So that's what happened.
That's incredible. And of course, businesses now want all of their applications talking to each other, putting all the data in one place and creating new customer experiences to be a part of this experience economy. And as a result, it's often said that we're living in the age of the application programming interface, or APIs, as we all know and love. But can you tell me more about how payment validation is made so much easier with APIs too?
So when we talk about APIs, people's eyes tend to gloss over. So let's use an analogy. APIs are a pipeline. That's all they are. And when Boss Insights are using and building that pipeline, what we're gathering for us is business information, the stuff that the banks already had, but we're getting really slowly and processing slowly and doing it with a snap, like a YouTube video when they're revealing something and they snap and it's revealed, or I Dream of Jeannie for the rest of us who aren't 20. But that's what APIs are. It is the acknowledgement that plumbing exists. You don't have to go to the well to get your water / data in this analogy. We have plumbing. You just turn on a faucet. But what banks were doing was building something called RPAs, which were robots, not to really acknowledge that plumbing exists in 2020, but to basically take that robot and go to the well, to robotically process manual forms. And I don't understand why. Here's how you can make payments and lending and insurance and group solutions and foreign exchange available in one fell swoop. If you have a complete view of the business, where the business is securing that information and they have the rights to that data, we're very strong on that. But if you have that view on the business in a structured way, then the bank knows when they can offer you the best deals possible. And you don't have to fill out one form after another for every single product you're going to use at the bank. We've all been there, right? On the personal side, where you sit there and you're opening up an account and you think that you've signed so much paperwork that you've just gotten married to somebody very famous, but really all you've done is opened a business account and there's 20 forms. That is the old way. The new way is to have access to business information to get the banker out of the business of being a manual order taker, calculator, form filler, and into the business of being a relationship manager, of seeing the business in terms of what products that they can work with the bank so that you're able to go and grow your business. That's the holy grail that we're trying to achieve. And APIs make it possible.
And you've done a great job there of highlighting the scale of the problem and the work that you're doing there, and how during the crisis, Boss Insights actually provided SMBs and commercial lenders with Boss Cares. But can you tell me more about this automated modular PPP/Cares platform, and also the difference that you're able to make by leveraging technology?
Yeah, absolutely. So Boss Cares PPP was really a subsection of our regular platform, which was a platform that does lending in minutes, not months, and cross-selling. So when we were talking in the last question about payments, right away, without doing other applications, the bank can process payments for a business really easily, for example, right? So we had this platform before PPP that if a bank uses it, they can grow their relationship with their business customers from one product like a loan to all the way up to 10, including things like payments. PPP Cares comes about. And what needed to happen was the adoption of this 11-page forgiveness form that had to be filled out multiple times, where rules change every week, because when you pass legislation really quickly, that is what happens. So we put out a platform that's modular, meaning that we could do everything from the application for PPP all the way through to the dreaded forgiveness calculation and the monitoring afterwards. But that didn't mean that any bank had to adopt all of it. They could take what they like and they leave what they don't like. And there were so many industry players putting up many fintech solutions. One of the two American banking associations, the ICBA, ran webinars with, I think, over 20 competitors. And we were in the second tranche of that, presenting to the world. What was different about what we were doing is that most people said, hey, we got you, banks. I want to say it differently. Hey, we got you, boo. It's okay. We're gonna just give you a way to upload your documents. Well, what does that do? The rules are changing every week. You'll just have to upload new documents next week. And what we said was, hey, we got you, boo. We're just going to connect to data automatically. We're going to build a pipeline. And then when the rules change, you don't have to do anything. And you know what else? You don't have to calculate forgiveness. We're going to do that for you. With Boss Insights, it really was a 3-step process. You connect your data inputs. We do the calculations, which you review. And then you do the attesting manually and you submit. So we were really different, our approach. And the reason is that we were not trying to just solve PPP, one crisis point. We really wanted to demonstrate that lending can be automated. That was our whole mission critical statement.
I love that. Absolutely love it. I've had countless emails from listeners over the last few weeks talking about their fears and concerns around job security, while also seeing their interest rates on their savings drop considerably. And as a result, many are beginning to look at how they can invest in their future in an uncertain time. Could digital assets be the answer? Now, you might remember that I spoke to Blake Hutchinson, CEO at Flipper, on episode 1194 about how to buy digital assets and websites. In a nutshell, Flipper is a marketplace that you can buy and sell websites, stores, and digital real estate that are just ready to go. So if you do have dreams of running your own successful online business, or perhaps you're looking to exit your existing online business, my friends at Flipper can help you buy and sell. So if you're interested and want to find out more, please visit flipper.com/techtalks. That's flippa.com/techtalks for a free consultation and also 50% off all fees. But now, back to the interview. And it does feel like we're almost at this real turning point now, with commercial lenders even more acutely aware of the need to integrate new financial technology into their legacy systems. And they were accused for a very long time for being very slow to adapt to change. But I think that is changing. But I'm curious, is this something that you're seeing with your clients too?
Wow, I don't even know how to answer this without offending anybody, but I will give it a good college try. I was a banker in 2010. Let's start there. I spoke last week with bankers in 2020, and we were laughing. If I could just sell to the people who have to do the job, we would not have a problem with product adoption, I'll put it that way, because we are still laughing about the same CRAP that is involved with actually serving your business customers. Most lenders on the front line, they're just that. They're me. They don't want to be in a position where they're the gatekeeper making the choice for a business whether they can stay afloat or not. They want to help their business clients. They're in it because they love to be the kind of person that gives advice. That is who's attracted to that job. But when you went to a bank or a credit union up until COVID and you said, digitization is important and I will tell you why. And they said, yes, it is. It's not a top 3 priority. super interesting. Thanks. We'll talk later. And that is how that went. But in March, when you spoke to banks and credit unions, everybody was buying laptops. And when you couldn't buy it from commercial suppliers, they went to Costco. This is true. They actually had Costco orders to laptops because when you can say you're digitizing, but when you don't have a choice but to prove it because everyone's in isolation, that is that. So here we are in July, where digitization is not a priority that's 27th on the list. It is a need to have. It's part of business continuity. And now what remains to be seen is which fintechs will banks and credit unions partner with? Who will they trust to bring them forward to this new reality?
And what I love about what you're talking about here is I think all the headlines and the news feeds that we see are all fintech and 1,000,001 other buzzwords. But essentially, if we strip all those buzzwords back, it's about communication and collaboration. So how do you think technology will continue to improve that communication and collaboration between borrowers and lenders?
Sure. Well, I feel like I've maybe said it almost too much, but the status quo is certainly not fostering a partnership-based model. It's fostering a transactional-based model, right? I mean, if we divide 8,000 by 24, we'll have how many businesses left the bank just, in the last hour, right? And the applications are tedious, the approval rates are low, and the service is transactional. But data is our way out of this. And we've been saying it forever. Data is the new oil, which is really catchy as a buzz term, but it's not really the data. Banks already have tons of data. They just can't use it. It's the insights that really get us out of this. If you have a platform in place that tells bankers who have hundreds of clients in a snapshot, this business is okay, this business is in trouble, this business has the need for 3 other products, get the specialist in there. If they don't have to do that work manually, they are much more able to spend their time focusing on building relationships and partnerships. They're much more able to think about strategy and how to move us forward. I will tell you that was my mandate to grow my book of business back in 2010. I had maybe 15-20% of my time tops to spend on it because most of the job is manual. So technology, collaborating, and working with the needs of the business, starting with what would bring the business delight, will then get us into a partnership model. Here's what I want to say about this. What other industry do we have where the client is supposed to go to the industry expert, the bank and the credit union, and tell them exactly what product they need? Maybe the grocery store. You're supposed to know exactly what you want. But normally, the business, the bank or the credit union should be telling the business what they want. And again, data is our way out of this. A scalable way so that we're not turning ourselves into human calculators or human paper pushers. That's what computers and data processing platforms are for.
What I also love chatting with you about today is we are living in a period of uncertainty at the moment. And it's so refreshing to hear your enthusiasm and your passion for making positive change. And it really comes across. But I've got to ask, what excites you about the future of possibilities and opportunities that technology can help you further deliver with Boss Insights?
Remember when technology came out, it's going to give us a 4-hour work week, right? I'm on my 6th month of 18-hour work week, so I have a bone to pick with technology on that. But I have also a love affair with technology. I really do. My first startup was just a finance play. We gave money to big buildings to make them more energy efficient. I've always loved sustainability, responsible sustainability, right? And that's what technology has the power to do. We actually do not know why we lend to companies in the way we lend to them. If you walk around one of the biggest conferences, I know this because I did last year, and say, why are we seeing that companies who can afford 25% more than the cost of the loan on their books, it's debt service coverage. Why do we use that metric? Why is it 1.25? Why isn't it 1.2? No one knows the answer, really. I tried, and there's 50,000 people at that conference. So I tried with a couple hundred. What excites me about technology is that finally we can do away with the manual work and we can refocus on what humans are intended to do, which is really understand how to move things forward. We have inundated ourselves with the day-to-day tasks for some reason, and I am not sure why. When I ran a loan, I had to write the actual request from the business in one piece of software. write the relationship and the management team in another, write how much deposits they had in a third, write whenever I met with them in a fourth. Why? There's no reason. And I know that was 10 years ago, but I'm telling you, the bankers I spoke to last week are doing it exactly the same way. And when banks were faced with PPP, they built robots to do things manually because there just isn't the trust. What I'm hoping that we can bring out with technology is the demonstrable results. We are showing that you can have an increase in revenue per business client of up to 30%. So if you're not a bank that wants to do it because you want to help your employees have a better time, do it because you'll earn more revenue from your business clients. My end goal, what makes me excited about all of this, is that the businesses will be able to be measured on their merit. And I just keep trying to sell to every group in the best way I know how, so that we can all, rising tide, it helps all ships. Let's all rise together.
And here in 2020, of course, I'm still waiting for a hoverboard and 50,000 people at a tech conference. It feels like a different life, doesn't it?
It is a very different life. And I think we should talk to Marty McFly and all the people who made that movie, because we do not have hoverboards. We absolutely don't. We have one wheels, and they're cool, but not as cool. There is just this really interesting dichotomy going on of some things are, did we not just launch a rocket and land it? Thank you, Elon Musk. And you can see the through line of what he did in his career. First, there was the financial play, right? And then there was figuring out how to build some pieces of equipment, like a car with aluminum. And it's no big deal. Like, what is a Tesla, really? And now we're launching rockets and landing them. And bankers are still being hired to work as calculators. But when you speak to the industry, everybody says they have it covered. I promise you they don't. If you talk to the people processing these loans, they threw people at this. It's time to throw computers at it and let people think on how we can make things better, why we got into this transactional mess in the first place. That's, this is a time of change. And there's a proverb about that coming from Chinese culture that maybe that doesn't lead for the best and most calm environment. But we started this even before we hit the record button saying, do you have toilet paper? Okay, you're good. Once you have toilet paper, so to speak, it is the imperative to try and see what you can do to help. That's all we're doing. We're lending our tech to help.
Well, before I do let you go, could I ask that you remind everyone listening of where they can find you guys online, contact your team, and carry on this conversation that we started today?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So we're on social media. We're on LinkedIn at Boss Insights. We also have a website with our brand new explainer video at bossinsights.com. And we put out a lot of information on how to digitize without breaking the bank and breaking your brain. And it's on our bossinsights.com/blog. So please let us know what would make your lives easier, both for the businesses and for the bankers. And we will solve this together. Shopify CEO Toby just said that 2030 digitization is here now in 2020. So let's take a lemon and make lemonade. That's all I'm saying.
Well, there's so much I've loved about our conversation today. One, you've seamlessly and painlessly been able to simplify incredibly complex technology. You've also made it fun, especially when you said, hey, we got you, boo. And somehow managed to squeeze in flash mobs, I Dream of Genie and hoverboards, which has made this aging tech guy very happy. So a big thank you for joining me today.
Oh, that was a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Man, I just love chatting with Keren today, especially because she just seems to get it. Sure, we're talking about incredibly sophisticated and complex technology, but if we dare to strip all that back, essentially it's communication, collaboration, and solving real problems. And telling that story and mission in a fun way, believe me, it is a special gift. So, Keren, thank you so much for bringing a sense of fun and enthusiasm onto today's podcast. But over to you listening. Did we miss anything today? Do you have any insights? Or is there a question that you want to ask? Or even just a scene of techno-babble that you've seen in a TV show that you'd like to share with me? No matter what it is, simply email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. You'll find links to all my social channels, how you can work with me, and links to 1,300 other interviews on there. But it's time for me to go now, I'm afraid. I will see you all again tomorrow with another guest. But a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.